Take a trip back in time with me to your last doctor's appointment. You're sitting in a paper gown, barefoot, hoping the breeze hitting your backside doesn't take the whole gown with it, because those horrible little stretchy strings just don't seem to cut it, do they? You're probably wondering if you remembered to lock the door on your way out, or thinking about how freezing it is in that little room, or texting a loved one who's been reminding you to make this appointment for months. You're consumed in the present moment. The last thing on your mind, and the first thing the doctor is going to bring up when they do their signature little knock at the door, is your body mass index. You know the drill at this point, because despite the fact that you're certain you've never been this cold in your life, you've been here before. You exercise your body in the ways that you're supposed to. You watch what you eat. But your body mass index says that you're overweight. You may have heard that BMI doesn't take muscle mass into account. You may have heard that it is an outdated system. But here's what you probably don't know. BMI was never intended to measure an individual's health in the first place. I am not a doctor, unless you count my plan to pursue a PhD. I'm a 20-year-old history major. Yes, people do still study history. And I've been in that doctor's office too. I didn't always like history. Throughout grade school, I wasn't keen on memorizing dates and facts, and that was what it felt like to me. It wasn't until I started digging deeper that I began to grow a true appreciation for history. And it wasn't until I almost lost my life that I started digging. When I was 14 years old, I was obsessed with my BMI. I had always been classified as overweight as a kid. I was bullied for it throughout middle school. And I had finally had enough. I was going to get out of that overweight category. And I did. I was so focused on losing weight that I started counting calories, and then I began every morning and ended every day on an elliptical. I was so consumed with losing weight that it became my whole life. There are days where I can look back and remember how many calories I ate, but I can't remember what my friends said to me. On my 15th birthday, my parents surprised me by ordering dessert at a restaurant, and I yelled at them in front of my friends. I couldn't even celebrate my birthday with the people who loved me the most in the world. And then my heart rate dropped to 37 beats per minute. That's dangerously low. I ended up in a residential treatment center, and the first thing that they taught me was that everything I thought I knew about my health was wrong. So when I recovered and I got to college, I wanted answers. And I discovered that I could find them through historical analysis. Travel back in time with me again, this time just a little further back. Don't worry, only like 200 years. You'll be fine. I do it all the time. This is where we meet Adolphe Quetelet. He was a statistician in the 1830s, and he had a question. How can a man achieve the most ideal physical appearance? And he answered that question by conducting studies of white European men so that he could pinpoint what he called the normal man. He believed that a man who fell closest to this norm would be closest to achieving the ideal human form. So, based on these studies, he developed what he called the Quetelet Index, which was a simple formula of weight divided by height squared. His aim in these efforts was to define a standard of beauty. Now we're going to hop back into our little time machine again to 1972, and I hope you're not getting whiplash by this point. Meet Ansel Keys, a physiologist who wanted to study trends in obesity. He took the Kettle Index and essentially revamped it so that he could make data more easily accessible for research at the population level. He conducted studies of his own, but these did little to diversify Kettle's initial studies. Again, no women were included. But Dr. Keys didn't just update the studies of the Kettle Index. He also gave it a new name, the Body Mass Index. His study gained a lot of traction. The National Institutes of Health and the World Health Organization pushed BMI further into the public eye in the early 1990s, and there you have it. You're freezing in a paper gown while you're waiting on your doctor's little knock, anticipating the verdict of your BMI. Now, I don't know what you're thinking, but when I, 19 years old and just barely finished with my freshman year of college, found all of this out, I had a lot to say about it. I just figured out that the index that I was relying on to determine whether I was healthy or unhealthy was built almost 200 years ago for a narrow slice of humanity, and it was meant to track population averages over time, not to assess individual health. And while BMI has come a long way since then when it comes to measuring the individuals it once excluded, we are operating moment by moment with a scale that was created and adapted to track population trends for research. Trends initially based on just a small group of our population. I realized that I knew almost nothing about something I'd been using every day. And history became the key to unlocking the truth. And this doesn't just apply to the body mass index. There are so many things that we are expected to just accept without question, without context, without looking at the trend. Like that one bad test grade that you still agonize over without the context of your whole GPA. Like a shift in the stock market without the context of economic trends over a lifetime. Like how cold you are in that doctor's office without the context of how cold you've really been before. My challenge to you is to dig deeper. Question the things that you believe. Look for the bigger picture. When we know where we come from, when we zoom out of the things we take at face value, we uncover the inner workings of our world. History is so much more than just dates and facts. It is the distinction between the trend and the moment. It is the difference between the detail and the full picture. And it is the way we add weight to the world.